Hi, I'm Aaron Walston. I'm going to be talking about my biggest challenge in a future role, and that future role is going to be a technology coach at my district. My district is about 2,000 students or so in a rural community in Ohio. And my biggest challenge I found, I was starting to get into when I was doing my trainings during the practicum, and that would be teacher buy-in. And then I actually have another one too, and that's student, like the consistency for students at home and at school. And I'm going to talk about both of these in this video. The first one I want to talk about though is the teacher buy-in. Some of the things that I had run across in my trainings that I was doing was some of the teachers were, asking, why do I need to learn another program? They were kind of apprehensive. The things that they had used in the past, they said worked just fine. So why do they need to learn something new? There's the commitment for the trainings. I found that getting people to commit to the times in their planning periods. Unfortunately, at our district, you can't force anybody to do anything after school except for a couple days a month, which were taken up by the district. So those times during the day, I had a hard time getting people to commit. And then I needed to actually, one of the things I needed to overcome were getting teachers to overcome their fear of the technology that I was training them on. They were kind of fearful of it. They didn't want to use it, but I had to make it to the point where they wanted to be able to use it. Some of the things I did to help with this is I actually talked to a lot of teachers individually. I would go to their classrooms and I would ask for not only if they had any questions, but mainly for feedback. And I felt that if I asked for feedback, they were more willing to talk rather than me asking if they just had questions, because their feedback was their opinion and questions were something about what I had done. So if I asked for the feedback, they were more willing to talk. I also wanted to make sure that in my trainings that my goals were stated and were very clear. If my goals were stated, then the teachers knew exactly what we were learning, where we were going, and what they needed to be able to do in the end. And when I also do this in my classroom with my students, and I find that it is very helpful also. Then the next thing was I used programs that were relevant to them. I didn't want to teach a math formative assessment technology program to an ELA teacher or a reading teacher. I made it relevant to them so that way they really wanted to use it in the end. Same thing in the reverse. ELA programs to a math teacher wouldn't really care for that, so I made sure that they were relevant. I also incorporated the ISTE standards when I was working with teachers, mainly Standard 2. I assisted teachers in using technology effectively while assessing, using these assessment programs. I wanted to incorporate the technology with formative and summative assessments together, so that way it made them a little easier for the teachers. That was our goal, was to incorporate the technology with the formative assessments. So I used that standard, the ISTE standard for coaches. The next standard I wanted to talk about was the consistency with students and their home versus the school. Obviously, when they're at school, I can train teachers to train the students the ISTE standards and how to properly use the internet, when and when not to do things. But then when they get home, that's totally different. That's out of our hands, and all we can do is really train students to use these skills at home. And they have their parents might not have the same standards, that was the consistency that I started to see that at school. And I feel like as a technology coach in the future, that's going to be a major concern that I really want to address. I have to really train the teachers to properly use it themselves. If I can get the teachers trained to properly use the standards themselves, then that's going to be passed on to these students. And it's going to take some time, I believe. Teachers they will use these to teach the students, and over time, I feel like it will get better and better and better. The next thing is possibly offer trainings to parents and community members. That would be something that I would, as a technology coach, that I would run. I could offer these. I mean, would I get a lot of buy-in? Potentially. I'm hoping that I could get community members to understand what we're trying to do. Then if I can train a few, then they can go talk to others, and then I can offer more trainings and hopefully bring people in. The next thing would be to also just include information for parents. Parents need to know what our goals at the school are. Once they understand what the goals of the school, then they can pass that on with their own child, just like we are at the school. Offering those ISTE standards so parents can see them, listed out, that I believe would be very beneficial. In this case, I was using the ISTE standard for Coaches 5, digital citizenship, and that would be the modeling and promoting of digital citizenship. Modeling the correct usage to students will help definitely over time, and then parents, I believe, will need to be trained or informed on what the standards are so they can also be working with their child, our students, hand in hand. And these are the two main challenges that I believe are going to be in the future that I didn't even think really existed until I started getting into this practicum. So when it comes to this, it was very eye-opening. It's something that I'm going to have to think of in the future, and I think I'll be able to overcome it. Thank you.